Hello, lovely loves. So, I'm here today to talk to you about the ego. And I printed out some stuff because I'm facilitating a meeting later today. And I wanted to discuss this specifically. First of all, there's a definition of the ego that humanity has given us, and I will go over this definition. So, it's a noun. It is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance, and it also could be a part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and unconscious, and responsible for reality testing and personal identity, or a conscious thinking subject. So those are the ideas given to you by humanity for what the ego is. And, that's fine. My personal definition of the ego is the belief that we all have in separation. So it is the actual belief that all of this is what it is. That is all what the ego is. It is the belief. And you could also say it is, to the extreme, an attachment and identification with separation, or separation that is what we are experiencing. So, the self-esteem one is one thing that I wanted to kind of discuss and get that out there. Me as in Quatesh, did not create myself, not my little self. You as in the listener here, and thank you for listening, did not create yourself. So you cannot give yourself or establish your self-esteem or your self-worth, because you are not the one who created that which is you, for you to even establish it. You can establish it for the things that you make, and you do that by putting your belief into it and making it real to you. But who you really are is an extension of God, which is something completely beyond all concepts and totally abstract. Its worth, its esteem is valued at more than you could even comprehend in your experience that you're in right now. So you cannot establish your real self-esteem or your real self-worth, because it's not something that you have the ability to even comprehend or establish. It's established by God. Okay, so now to the ego. I kind of I had gotten a download, and this has been a while ago, and it's funny, I randomly ran into it. People say, well, doesn't the ego have good parts? Well, it's kind of pointless to think about it like that, because you could say anything has good parts. It's based off of your preference. So it's all very subjective, which is why it's not true, because anything that is completely true is not subjective. It is consistent. So you could say a Barbie is nice. My daughter likes Barbies. Or you could say a Barbie is, that's patriarchal and it's promoting a certain image that no one can fulfill. So here you go again with the preferences. So that's pretty much what the ego is. You could say, yeah, it has good parts. It helps me hear. You can appreciate certain things. Like I can appreciate all the contrast that this separated experience has. And that, there's so much to appreciate. I could go into complete appreciation just for me out here in nature right now and in the sun. I have a lot of appreciation for it. But that doesn't mean that I'm placing my worth in it. Because if it was raining out, and if it was in the middle of winter, I couldn't then say, there's nothing here for me. There's nothing here that is good, and I have now judged this as being, bad, because this isn't going on for me the way I want it to right now. So everything within form is actually neutral, and we're giving it the value based on our preferences. So it being sunny, me being appreciative of the beautiful sun and of the beautiful grass and the leaves changing, all of this is based on my personal preference. I can choose to be in appreciation all the time. And so that's also subject to change, because maybe I don't like the snow, or maybe I don't like the rain, and then maybe that's my preference, which is fine. But then I'm maybe not appreciating it as much as I am the sun, because I prefer the sun over the brain. And that's why it's not real. So ultimately, because it's not consistent always, it's not real. And that's why the ego, or the belief in separation, which is my definition of the ego, you could call it your personality even, you could call it the part of you that you feel is somehow different than everyone else. And that uniqueness, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not real, ultimately, not in truth. So, isn't the ego needed to do anything, like to learn, for me to talk to you, for you to get online and listen to me? Isn't the ego needed for that? And the truth is, the entire concept of learning would not even be needed without the ego. So because we have decided, we have chosen to be in a separated state, we have chosen to be in a state where the ego is necessary to a point, because we have to learn. But in truth, there is no learning. So in truth, the creative force that we are doesn't even need to learn anything, because everything is always as it is. It already is. There's nothing to learn. Because we have separated ourselves, now learning has become mandatory, because we have forgotten. If you don't forget anything, what do you need to know? Once you forget everything, now you have to learn to remember. So that's where you could say the ego comes into play, because learning is now something that is even necessary, when originally or ultimately it's not. But down here, or however you want to say it, I mean, it's not like it's anywhere else, down or up. It's just where you're focused. And where you're focused now, learning is a function that needs to be experienced. And so the Holy Spirit uses learning to help you to remember. So in that aspect, your higher self, the Holy Spirit, God, whatever you want to say, God is using this to help you to remember, because this is a tool that you have established when you decided to forget. So now you have to choose to remember, and you have to choose to learn by allowing it to be shown to you. So it's, since we're focused here, we have agreed to have an ego as a means of separation. You can be here without any identification, but the intellect alone is ego-based, because the higher self uses intellect to bring everything to remember, but it is itself ego-based. But because it is, when it's given to the hands of God, it can be used to help you to remember. So concepts of the ego are needed, but not the ego itself, because ego identification is not needed in the neutral reality that we're in. So in that way, you could say, oh, you could, be egoless. It's more like being identificationless while still having preferences, while still having your personality, while still having fun, while still having passion. All of these things don't have to be given up to not have identification with things. It's just realizing where your true reality is. So I hope this clears up a little bit of my definition of the ego. Thank you all. Later, loves. Bye.